Okay. Thank you everyone for participating. I think this is a very important topic we're going to talk about today. And I'm so glad to have Anisha, and Skanda. They all have wealth of experience from what they are doing. And I think it's very important for us actually to understand from the artist's perspective, photographer's perspective, and what the law says. I think that's very important. And being in our part of the world, sometimes we take everything for granted, right? And that is something we need to avoid doing as an individual, as an artist, and also as an institution. हामी आफै institution हुँदापनि there's so much things we are missing. त्यो कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले कसरी कभर गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ आजको कुराबाट हामीले गर्न सक्छौँ. So I just want to kind of go straight to questions. So we're going to probably start from Anshinji. Just a very basic question: what happens when you sell an artwork, or once you produce it? What is the process once that artwork is transferred from you to the buyer? I'll talk about the loan part separately, but just as a purchase part, what happens?
So, thank you, Roshan, and thank you for having me here for this conversation. And thank you all for coming. In my case, first, I didn't go to conventional art school, so I had no idea about English, right? I think there's some form of information given to the artists who are practicing abroad. So I was in the US and I started creating works, and for me, this knowledge was how do you say? I came to learn about it much later during my own practice. In my case, I would just create an artwork, and it goes to either an institution or an individual. And I assumed the image right is also taken away with the object itself. But later I found out that it's not the case. So
that's my understanding as well. I think it's only the physical object is gone,
exactly,
but the digital rights will stay. What about in photography, Sanji? What happens with photography when it comes to when you sell certain prints, or when you're consigned by somebody and you bring that print away? What happens?
Thank you everyone. Okay, so what happens is basically what happens is we sell a lot of images because full time I work in the music world, Kathmandu. So there it's I'm a services and there are all the schools, just agencies that they are the ones who sell to the clients, so the ones other than all of that. So those are the main places where I normally work. Other than that, normally I sell pictures, make cameras, and we have people daily images, and normally my activity is paintings I take to the contract. So to not be able to music and bring music where we cannot use it. So that's how it is that sometimes you do just use all the things and it's kind of
So when you say especially as the agencies, when you're in a contractual basis, you produce something, you give it to them. So that means all the rights are taken away.
No, I have a rights.
You have the rights. Yes. So does it limit or
no, it's not. It's work they can also use as
Okay.
so it's
Thank you for clarifying that. Priyanjana, what happens in Nepali context when you think about the Nepali law, right? When you are selling or dealing with the intellectual property and the rights, the physical object is being transferred from one person to the other or from a person to an institution. How is this the intellectual property is protected for the maker?
So intellectual property is a very, very huge domain. I think I'm going to limit myself to copyright because
Okay, sure.
what we'll be dealing with here. So Nepal might say in copyright we have two main rights. One is the economic right, which is your right to sell the work, and then there is your moral right, that is the right to be identified as the owner of the work. When you sell the work, that means you're assigning the ownership of the right of the work to somebody else. So if you're selling the work, then they have the right to do whatever they want with the work. But you still retain your moral right, that is you have to be identified as the owner of the work. They cannot make changes to the work. They cannot mix the work with something else and create their own work out of it.
Did you use the word moral rights?
Moral right, yes.
Okay.
Moral right
Yeah.
is the right to be identified as the owner of the work and the right that protects the integrity of your work. So if you're selling a painting, nobody can, if I buy the painting, I don't have the right to take a part of the painting and mix it with something else and make it my own. That remains with the artist. So normally people try to make you waive your moral right in the contracts, but it is not legal to do it.
Okay.
So when you sign a contract, I think you should be careful about what you're signing.
And that is all around the world. Where you will not be able to remove the moral rights, or is it just Nepali
So
framework?
it's in some countries you can, because in USA there's nothing called as moral rights, because if you're a part of the Bond Convention, you have moral rights, but USA decided that it does not want to do that. There's a separate act for visual artists where they can have moral rights on the first 200 copies of the work. After that, there is no moral rights for artists, visual artists. If you're not a visual artist, you don't even have moral right for anything in the US. Yes, so that was shocking for me as well, because moral right is something so close to my heart as an artist right lawyer.
But also, like when you think about moral rights and being an artist, right? Let's say I don't want to take any of these hassles, right? So I just want to create an artwork and I just want to sell. Can I sell it with moral rights as well? Is that something? Is it practiced?
So you can always choose to waive your moral right on your own, but no one can ask you or force you to do it.
Okay. So I'll again come back to mention. Especially, I think you're an acclaimed artist. You exhibit all around the world. You are tied up with different museums, galleries, institutions. And you have got private buyers. So how does it work when you are consigned or when you're actually giving that artwork away? Is that the MOU that is actually created by the institution and they're trying to put you in a certain framework? Or are you also actually involved in the same way or in the same percentage that, okay, these are my rights and I want to own these rights? How does this work?
So in my experience, what I've had is, for example, a museum acquires one of my works, and they draw this contract, which is basically you can negotiate both between the museum and yourself. So I can either share it with my lawyer and have it looked up and then see if there's any changes that needs to be made.
Right.
So I've had this pretty easy way. Apart from that, in terms of let's say, for example, a museum acquires my work. The image right is not with the museum; it's only the object.
Okay.
So every time they want to publish this image of my work on, let's say, flyers or announcement, digitally, physically, they have to get my signature and approval. And I think it lasts, like as far as I remember, I think it lasts for like lifetime, and then another 80 years or
50 years or something.
Yeah, 50 years or 80 years or something.
Yeah. That's the other question I wanted to ask. But I think it's you have already raised that. And when you sell an artwork, there's so much happening after once the physical object is transferred. There's an exhibition happening. Loans can happen from that institution to another one. The publications, right?
Exactly.
All the digital materials.
Exactly.
They may want to create contents about the website, or they will in the website. They may want to assign someone to write about your artwork. Right?
Exactly.
So what I'm understanding from you is to do all that activities, they need to start a new MOU.
Exactly.
Right? So the original contract you made while you were selling your work or letting them acquire the work, at that time that is not defined. So that will only be defined when that
it's basically a
is about
transaction of artwork.
just
That's
the
about it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then every time they want to publish or create anything out of it, then they have to get my approval.
Right. And with photography, what happens, because especially when you look at photographies now, we call it like, especially when I think from an archival perspective, we call it digitally born materials, right? So these are already digitally produced, and once this digitally produced image is transferred to another owner, they will have the ability to print it in any size, right? So it can be printed in the size that you have exhibited, or it can be, enlarged. What happens when you actually, give away your photograph prints to another institution? So, two questions here. I think, would you just give them a print? That's one option. Or would you actually give your digital copy as well? And when that both is happening, right, what are the terms in between you and the buyer of the institution? How does it work?
So normally, sales managers, say for companies, managers, it's mostly like that we tend to have a contract agreement. And but if we have to give it to someone for their personal, say for living rooms and all that, then yes, we need to send in the digital files, and that cannot be tracked because we have to send it, especially abroad. Like if I have someone abroad and if they want to buy a special picture, I have to send them the highways. But in my email, I tend to make like a mutual understanding between the scenes that cannot be reproduced or cannot be used anywhere. So it's basically mutual understanding and contract. So digital contract or verbal contract or something written in the email that verifies that it cannot be used elsewhere. And so far, I don't think I have any issues from that. But some companies here, they have say it's like a year-long contract. Say if they are using only for print media, if someone buys my picture, they want to use it for the newspaper and print media. So what they have done is they again using the social media also, which is not in their contract. So again, I have to tell them to say that okay, this was our understanding, we cannot do that. And so far, I haven't had any problems in that case.
Right. In terms of the artwork, it's just one copy. Once it's sold, it's gone, right? With the digitally born images, you can make many copies, right? So what happens when you sell, or it's after your work is acquired by another institution? Would you have the same ability to share other images with other institutions? So there's lots of replication that can happen. So your images might be with one institution, but that can be shared with so many other institutions as well.
So in that case, what we do is in Photoshop, what we do is there is this section called IPTC. So it's basically like the location, the city, headline, description, and the author's right, the email. So we have that inside each image. So no matter how they try to replicate it, to prove that it's your image, in the properties, you can always find my details on how saying that I can prove that it's my work. And even a slight alteration is more, even more like it's more of evidence that I can.
And that can be tracked easily.
Yes, because inside the files, I think I have around 50,000, 20,000 final images that I've taken in the past 10 years. So every image in the vacuum is, I have all my details stored. So no matter where it goes, I can still claim and say that okay, this copyright, this image belongs to me.
Okay. So I just want to kind of read out some of these copyright acts that I found. I don't know whether I've captured this correctly or not, but I just want to share that with you, Priyanjana. Copyright Act say 2059 2059 मा एउटा छ 2002 तिरको एउटा थियो रहेछ अनि अर्को मैले अर्को कपिराइट रुल्स को फेरि 2061 मा पनि एउटा आएको देखेँ हैन तर यो दुईटैमा चाहिँ दुईटा कुराहरु के देखेँ भन्दाखेरि दे आर टकिङ अबाउट द मोरल राइट्स इकोनोमिक राइट्स हैन लिमिटेसन एन्ड एक्सेप्सन्स को कुरा पनि आयो त्यहाँ अनि इन्फ्रिजमेन्ट र पेनाल्टिज को कुरा पनि आयो हैन अब यो सबै कुराहरुलाई हेर्दाखेरि प्लस दे आर अल्सो गिवन टु अदर इन्फर्मेसन सो फर इन्डिभिजुअल इट सेज लाइफ अफ द अथर प्लस 50 years after that अनि institution or anonymous work को लागि 50 years from the date of publication. And is this our ground? This is where we stand, is it?
Yes, but it depends upon the type of the work.
Right.
So if it's like artistic work and literary work, then it is life of the artist plus 50 years. In Nepal, 70 in the US plus 70. For photographs, it's just 25 years.
Or it's just 25
It's
years?
just 25 years. From the date the image is created, that means the date you click the shutter and the image is formed. So from that day for the next 25 years, after that it's in the public domain and anybody can use it.
So anybody can just make a t-shirt and wear it?
But then the moral right does not die.
Or the moral right will not allow you to do so?
No, you can do it, but you will always have to credit the creator.
Okay. Okay. So then, and especially every time now I'll talk about what happens actually in the park, right? So we are an institution. We have got certain contacts that we work with the artists and institutions, right? But I also feel that we are not covering all the aspects. And especially when you look at the Nepali artists as well, they go to the gallery, they sell an artwork. Sometimes they may have a small MOU with the gallery, sometimes they may not. And I've seen that in many cases, probably it's not even an issue, right? So what happens when we are actually working in that sort of environment where legal paperwork are not created, it's sold, and it's owned by somebody else, and then we have seen many owners, they may have used it for publication, for calendars, for so many purposes. And in many cases, it's not notified. So when you talk about infringement, and penalties, how does it work if some artists, if they want to kind of action, right? How does it work? Where do they go?
So first thing, I always tell all my artists and all the students that I've taught that a contract is very, very important, not for the gallery, but for you as artists, because who needs to be protected? It's the artist, it's your art, it's your work. And you have ways to protect yourself without a contract, but it's Nepal. And we all know that copyright infringement is a criminal offense. So that means you have to go to the police station to file an FIR, and for that you need to explain to the police official that your copyright is something that is important, that the police has to be involved in, and then they need to file an FIR. And without contract, you don't have proof. You don't have proof. So you need to sign a contract. And you also need to remember that it is, even though copyright protection is automatic, like whenever you create the work, it is automatic, but unless you register your copyright in the Copyright Office, you cannot start a legal case against anybody else. It's very cheap, so I will tell everybody to go and register your work in the Copyright Office. And if you register it in Nepal, your work is protected mostly in countries which is a signatory to the Bond Convention. So they easily register your work there as well.
Right.
So
I've
once
seen.
yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you with that. I've seen that Nepal has signed this convention with the Bern, I think, right? And that kind of protects internationally. Is it? Is that how it works?
So it gives national treatment to the people
Uh-huh.
of that convention to every like if your art is copied by an Indian artist or some artist in the US, then if your work is registered in Nepal, but it has to be registered in Nepal because they need proof. Everywhere they need proof. So if your work is registered here, then the government of that country has the responsibility to treat you like a citizen of their country. And in most jurisdictions, the work has to be registered. And for every work to be registered internationally, it has to be registered in the home country
I
first.
see.
So
So when it is registered in your own home country, does that kind of does that make it more like international? You know, internationally it's kind of registered. Is that what you're trying to say? Or you have to kind of like if you're sending your work to like let's say US, do you have to kind of register it there?
So it's not registered there because all IP rights are territorial. So it is if you're
Okay.
registering it in Nepal, it is only registered in Nepal, but you have the defense of national treatment protection. You have to go and register it there, and registering it outside of Nepal is expensive. But in Nepal, it's relatively cheaper. So just to be
Yeah, so-
safe, if you want to be a big artist who you want to do international shows, and if you want people to copy your work and be like safe legally, then you have to register your work in Nepal first.
So it basically says that literary and artistic work, which is a convention that was in 2006, I think, right? So that covers all sort of creative work and intellectual property, or does it define what is covered under that convention?
So it defines, there's a special section on the definition called work, which like identifies different kind of work. Maybe 20 years back, photography was not even considered as a copyrightable work because they thought it was patentable because it's the use of technology, and there was a lot of debate, a lot of cases, and then photography was considered as an artistic work and given its own separate branch of copyright. So the list is still growing. Nepal has just recently, like I think 5 years ago, identified digital art as artistic work. Otherwise, the government authorities were not even saying that, okay, this is made by technology, how can it be art? So when it's, the world is, the technology is developing, we are moving ahead, and the work definition will move ahead. There will be amendments to the convention, to the acts. It will grow.
Just one final question. Where you actually talked about this registering your intellectual property or copyrights. Is this something that is practiced in Nepal? So when I go to a copyright authority in Nepal, would they be able to produce a list of intellectual property or creative properties in the system? Is it really being done?
It is, you will get a list of the number of work that's been registered, but you will not get like exact work.
Uh-huh.
If you go to the trademark office, you will get the list of the logo, the name,
Yeah,
the brand,
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
But because a lot of people don't register copyright, so the office does not have a lot of people coming in, so the system has not been enforced really well. But for the system to work really well, artists have to go and register their work.
I see. I see. So it's already like I think like when I talk about whether it's an artwork or photographic work, it's quite challenging, right? So I think like how does it work when you think in a Nepali context and when you think in an international context, right? So I know like there's so many paperwork and documentation that has already been done when you work with international organizations, museums, institutions, and so on. When you compare that with the way you work with the Nepali institution and individuals, how do you differentiate that, the amount of, the documentation and the paperwork that needs to be done? How is it fulfilled?
Well, as far as the private acquisition is concerned, like I haven't really had any paperwork or things like that. It's basically on like mutual trust basis. A in the West, yes, definitely there's a lot of paperwork, and actually I hate paperwork, so I'm always trying to shy away from it, which I shouldn't do. I'm just learning. So, but I think it's very important. Like I've seen some cases here in Nepal where someone has acquired somebody's original work and reproducing the work in a print form or something like that and reselling it because the original object belongs to the owner. So it's kind of that kind of situation is very murky. I think it needs to be addressed. So yes, and I've also had some little instances, not really on the commercial side, but like people just making my work into a calendar and just offering it to me. And so you don't know what to say.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm just learning how important it is for us to actually log it into a copyright thing. And then, yeah, so this is a very very how do you say enlightening for us also.
And what is your experience, Skandaji, when it comes to the similar situation?
So there are two things that we should consider. One is the reasons that we use for editorial purposes and the other for commercial purposes. So for editorial purposes, we normally don't take consent. So we, like as photojournalists also, like for editorial use, so far till now the experience is past 9 years, I have not even had a single consent. So for editorial use is not a problem. But when we go into private spaces, we say about and so they don't have final information in the case of history. So it's very like a bit of boundaries of ethics on where you should shoot and where you shouldn't. And the other thing is the commercial purposes. So what happens is we shoot for editorial purposes, but sometimes those editorial purposes we have to select commercially. For example, let's say the image I sold to other people. It was an 18-month contract we had, and I couldn't use that image anywhere. And for them, for me to send that picture to them, I think they sent me around 10 to 12 forms, legal documents around that, and I didn't have to get the consent of a time. It was like 4 or 5 years back. So because that is for commercial purposes. So commercial purposes, for calendars, for other things, when I say, yes, if they don't have the consent, then they can file a case against you. So that's how you need to be careful in these two sectors.
Right, right. I keep on hearing this term one-time use, right? And this is something I think many of us use that term, but it doesn't really kind of applies in many ways, right? And I think it's one of the contractual point I think we use in our contracts, right? Because, like for example, if you're publishing something, this is a one-time use. You cannot use it for anything else. So in that sort of cases, like how does it work in Nepal? Like I have seen images that is actually used again and again without any consents, right? So what happens when it's being used like that? Especially like when I talk about, as I mentioned, like I'm involved in archives, and I've seen so many archives now, digital archives, and many of them they hold the same image. How does this work?
So archive is again you're using photos that are already in the public domain. So can you limit somebody from using a photo that's already in the public domain, which is one thing. So there's a completely different topic to talk about. But then the thing about like something that still holds copyright, it depends on your contract. So instead of using one-time use, you can use the word license to make it stronger and identify and specify the exact use in the contract. So if you want them to be used in the 2083 calendar next year in maybe March, the month, that's it. Then you specify that in the contract. And the one thing that you should do when you're drafting a contract is, in Nepal, contract has become a formality now. Like, people don't really know what they're signing. They just get a contract and they're happy that they're getting a contract. And you need to sit with both the parties and negotiate the terms, or at least tell the parties that, okay, this is the term that I'm signing. I know and I understand what I'm signing. And then you need to have like a separate, like you need to have a line in the contract saying, I understand and I read and I'm signing the contract after that. Like, mostly we have that line in the contract, but do we ever do that is the question. We don't. And so when you sign a contract with somebody saying one-time use, maybe they have not even read the contract.
Nice.
So for you to be very, very safe and secure, you need to go and tell the person, you need to make the person sit with you and tell them, okay, this is there in that clause. You can even call me as your lawyer. And then you can like explain it to them. But if like going through the copyright route is really difficult, there's also something, if you have a good, strong contract, you can file a case against breach of contract, which is a civil case, much easier, much faster to go because no police is involved. They're just breaching the clause of the contract. But if you don't want to go legally, you always need to make sure that you're negotiating and discussing the contract properly. Yeah.
And obviously, you got this organization called Kalalegal. So the name actually tells that what you actually do, right? And when you think from your organizational point of view, how many people are approaching for this purpose?
For making contracts?
Yeah.
I think it's a really new concept in the creative scene, not just fine arts, but everywhere. I think a lot of people used to approach me only when there are problems. So only when there's like a big problem, somebody stole their work or somebody copied their music, they're like, oh no, what do I do? You're going to solve this because you're a lawyer. And now, because they faced issues and a lot of people know, so now they come to me before they do it. There are only a very few people who have actually approached me before the issue has started and they've started drafting a contract. And a lot of artists are hesitant to sign a contract. So I think when you become more open to the idea of protecting your work yourself, because I know you're artists and you don't want to waste your time doing legal things.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, people are, I want my zone to be in art, I want to be doing what I want to do, this is too much for me. But this is what matters in the long run, because you need to survive. Your art is going to help you survive, and if your art survives, then you will survive. So.
And like now we're talking about NFTs, right? And every time I talk about this, like I've heard many artists talking about, especially even photographers as well. I'm just going to create it as NFT and put it in the market, right? And first thing, I have no clue how that works. I've heard that term, and I've seen it. People are selling it online. That's there, right? But how does it work when you think about creating a digital image and putting that in the market as NFT, fungible token, right? So how does this work? Like, have you done this? Even in this country as well, I think is this something that you have practiced or
Not really.
NFT? No, I don't know. You haven't done it. So is there any laws for this, or is there a process that you need to kind of fulfill to
I think the blockchain in itself is a concept that has not entered Nepal fully.
Okay.
And it will take a lot of time because we're still doing cryptocurrency, and so we're still in the
Currencies are illegal, right?
They are drafting a bill to make a certain type of currency. But I think there's a long way before we go even into the NFT world, because NFT in itself is creating a lot of intellectual property issues throughout the world.
Yes.
Because nobody regulates that environment. Like, who is going to, like, if somebody made a copy of your work and sold it as NFT, where do you go and complain? It's in the blockchain.
Right. And there are other question actually for you, like, especially when you think about Nepal's context, we sell artworks from a studio, from a gallery, from institutions, wherever it's possible, right? And in many cases, there are no paperwork being done. So later, let's say after 5 years down the line, you found out that okay, there's been merchandising being created or there's been posters being created, and what should they do? They haven't got any paperwork to prove that they have sold that artworks to this individual or an organization. How does it protect that artist's right in that case, especially with photography and artwork both?
So the thing is, if you don't have a contract, and in Nepal's context, when people don't understand the different kind of uses that comes with an artwork, if you're selling an art to me who has no idea about this, I would assume that I have the right to do everything with the artwork because I bought the art for like maybe 5 lakhs. So this is my right to create whatever I can with this work. This is the mentality that people have. And when you sell art, people just sign this certificate of authenticity. That's it, like this is my work. But they never put a clause that, okay, this is only for personal use. You cannot make any other use of this artwork. Has anybody ever mentioned this line while selling?
I'll just mention that I think when Subodh was actually exhibiting here in the Taragaon Museum, I bought one of his work and he actually gave me a certificate of authenticity, right? But I don't think that this clause is there. But the practice is there, right? So I think there are voids that we need to kind of cover up as a creator. And what do you think? What are the, like, if you have to kind of literally make a bullet points, what are the 5 things or 3 things all of the creators must do when it comes to copyrights?
So not just copyright, I think all creators have to follow. I always say there are 3 C's. So one is copyright. Go and register your copyright as soon as your work is done. It's very easy. It will take like 10 minutes of your time. If you've done it once, you can do it like a lot of times. Second is contract, which is very important because even if you have copyright, you don't have proof to say that why did you sell this work? Did you license the work? Did you assign the work? Are you giving it for printing? Are you giving it for merchandising? Are you giving it for animation in a movie? What are you giving it for? It needs to be specified in the contract. And the third and the most neglected by everybody is compliance. As an artist, you need to be legally compliant. Do you have a business plan? Are you giving invoices? Are you giving bills? Is there a PAN number? Are you paying taxes? Because in the end, the government is going to come after you for like a lot of money from your artwork, and you need to be legally compliant. To be safe, you need to like also be dutiful, I guess.
So the 3 C's are the most important, I think.
Yes, 3 C's.
Before I go with like a few other questions, I would like to open it to the floor. If you have any questions regarding what we have just discussed about, we can feel free to ask. Yeah, probably you don't even need a mic. You can speak. Thanks.
How does this work with new design and new work? How does this work? Does this also consider murals and wall paintings?
So this is tricky because copyright needs to be in a fixed medium, and a mural is considered something that can be removed.
What if it is some photos or graphics and they make some commercial merchandise after it is completed?
So if it's in a hotel, that's completely different because there is a contract and we have signed to do this work for a specific purpose. Then you can obviously stop them from doing it and you can file a complaint which is in the copyright office for the first step. It's like when you have small claims, you can go to the CDO to get it done, or when if somebody has taken a small amount of money, you go to the police station in Teku to take it back and they call you and settle it. But the copyright office also has a similar mechanism where if it's like a simple issue that can be solved between 2 parties and you don't want to go to court or you don't want to go to the police, you can go to the office, they call the person and they solve it. But if you've made a mural without consent outside, then you don't have those rights because first thing, it's not your property, and second, there's nothing to prove that it is a fixed medium, and you don't have rights to something that is not fixed.
Because it's in public places.
Yeah.
So public like the government and the metropolitan city, like they can. Now I think we have the recent case of the COVID-19 when they had the tribute to all the heroes. And just a couple of days after the body, they had it all removed. So I think I also suggest you document yourself. When you are doing the graffiti, document yourself, like so later on that can also be used as evidence of your work.
Suppose I painted a copy an artwork just for practice and I posted it in the social media. So what would be the consequence? Like I have given the credit of whose artwork, posted artwork it is, but I posted it. It's really
So there is something called as fair use exception in copyright. If you're using it for personal use, or if it's a non-commercial use, that if you're not earning any money from it, or if it's for like an educational purpose, there are like certain things that are listed, then you can use it without their permission. But I think one thing we need to know is like just writing somebody's name and saying, oh, this was done by this person is not credit. You need to go and ask the person, can I use your work? I've used your work for this purpose, can I post it? I'm using it for non-commercial, like they don't need to respond, like if you're just using it non-commercially, but it's like a practice that I think we should do to at least inform the artist that, okay, this is what I'm posting. If the artist is not alive, then it's something else. And there's a foundation, then maybe we'll talk to the foundation.
And I'm just going to ask one question, like when you talked about that particular point, I'm just relating that back to what you were talking about today, right? As an institution, like somebody is filming there, and we will post it after 2-3 days, right? So in certain example, this is happening everywhere, right? So what I'm hearing from you is, even to do that, I should actually recollect that with you all and get a permission before I post.
No, so there are like two different things. When we are here in a public space where it's being recorded, and I know it's being recorded, all of us know we're being recorded, and we have given implied consent to be recorded in this place. Like if you go to a concert, you cannot go and tell them that, oh, why did you post my picture? Because you entered, like, generally it should be written on the back of the tickets, like internationally it is. I've not attended a lot of concerts in Nepal, so I don't know if it's written here. Or when you're in a public place, you're giving consent to be recorded. If you've seen cameras, or you have to vocally say that, okay, I don't want to be recorded. If you record me, just blur my face and post it. I have the right to say that, but I need to say it before it's posted.
So it's just something we just need to be aware and understand and act accordingly.
Yes, but if you're going in a private space, you cannot go and take somebody's photo without their consent and post it.
Okay.
And you say that different percentage companies, including the right? And if you upload it to skip to this, so artists who say it's the worst of sales savings, 25 lakhs on that basis. One is in place of 30% is 30% saving tax liabilities. Another one is the people like to say this is power liabilities, only tax liabilities. So you put here an artist and say that 1% 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs. So that's a people liability or a liabilities. It would need to be artists to sell or artists to identity to stars. This is liability. If I'm not supposed to fix this, I think this one side liabilities.
So त्यसरी डिफ्रेन्सिएट चाहिँ गरेको छैन नेपालमा अनि I think एउटा जेनरल बिजनेस प्लानमा जुन चाहिँ अमाउन्ट लाग्छ त्यही हो बट इट अलवेज डिपेन्ड्स अन बिल पठाएर बेचेर अगाडि हाल्नु पऱ्यो होइन भने हाल्नु परेन सो त्यसरी स्पेसिफाई गरेर चाहिँ गरेको छैन अनि आई थिङ्क इट निड्स टु बी डन जस्तै गरेर आर्टिस्टहरूलाई मोटिभेटिङ चाहिँ हुन्छ कि ओके मैले यति गरेको छु भने आइम गेटिङ दिस काइन्ड अफ रेजुलेसन सो आई विल पे ट्याक्स भनेर मलाई केही त गरेको छैन गभर्मेन्टले म किन तिरौँ भन्ने हुन्छ आई थिङ्क यो It's sentimental, and it's not my opinion. Although it's published.
Yeah, again, I would like to come back to Amshan. I've seen, from your artworks when you prints,
That's it.
and with Skanda as well, because it's a digital medium, we make lots of prints, right? And when we make prints, we talk about artistry, right? We talk about limited editions, right? And how does this work, right? Because what I've seen recently is even the artist who beats are actually displayed, right? And how does this work? Like being an artist, I'm just trying to identify as an artist what is our responsibility to kind of maintain the whole concept of artist proof. And as from the buyer's perspective, is it ethical to buy the artist proof? So this is a question for you both.
I don't think there's any differentiation between artist proof and the other numbers, the editions. Some people are just keen on buying artist proof only, so that's a possibility. It's between the artist and the buyer. So edition, like the size of the edition, the size of the artist proof, it's actually solely decided by the artist.
Right.
So there's no
boundaries
or boundaries or anything like that, because you can see some editions are like all the way up to 300, 900 editions.
Yeah.
Some are like 8 editions, 3 editions, and I think it's basically the size of the edition determines the value of the work.
Right.
More there is, more scarce it is, more valuable it is.
Right.
That's about it.
And is this the same with photography? When you make limited prints, do you usually sign and then number them, or how does it work when it comes to photography?
Normally, till now I have not signed photographs. I just like normally, I just several images. And editions wise, I mean, normally it's all what we do is like I said earlier, magazines and all that internationally and all that whatever we do. There is no sign, nothing going on. We just sell, we get the money, and what we can do is like Google like what I tend to do is check if my images have been reproduced anywhere else, because like by searching a name on Google it makes it easier to track down where the images have been published and where not, and if anyone is like misusing it. So one of the ways is also that. But so far I haven't had any major issues.
Right. How does it work when it comes to performance art, installation art? Right. We recently did a performance from Sherpa. His performance is recorded and it's being shown in the gallery now. Right. So when that performance is performed, right, and yes, it's a part of the exhibition, it's being shown in the gallery. So that whole video, for example, who owns that?
Unless it is a work for hire, unless the person has been hired to do it for you, it is always the author of the performance, the creator of the performance who owns the performance. The venue does not matter. But it depends. What is the relationship with the person? Are you just hiring the person to do it for you? Have you paid everything to create this thing for you? Are you the producer? Like in Nepal, producer of the work is somebody who has invested in the work. According to our law, so are you the producer of the work? If you are, then is there a contract that says that, okay, I'm just doing it for you. You own the performance right, so you can perform it anywhere else. But whatever money that comes from this performance is going to be split 60-40 between you and me because I've invested in the work. So generally, the law does not say anything because our Copyright Act is 23 years old. And 23 years back, art was not as developed as it is right now.
Yeah.
So we still have a lot of things that needs to be covered by the new amendment. So the law does not say anything. That's why you always need to have a very strong contract.
Right. And you talked about those 3 C's, right, which I found very interesting. Is that applicable to institutions like us, galleries and other museums?
Yes.
Or is there anything else that we need to kind of incorporate to kind of safekeep us as an institution, but also to kind of maintain the right of the creator? So what are those responsibilities for when you think from the institutional point?
So for institution, I think you don't just limit yourself to copyright. You also have a lot of intellectual property with it. You have your brand name. As a gallery, the gallery's brand name is really huge internationally. I think in Nepal also it's becoming huge now. People want to be associated with certain galleries. So you need to trademark your brand name, make it secure. And then there are a lot of other things called design, industrial design, and patents, like the mushrooms that you're doing. It is something that's not copyrighted. You have to have a patent because it's an invention. So the method of doing it. So I think as an institution, you need to be more legally aware than the artist so that you can help create a balance of protection between both the sides, the artist and you. And you also need to be compliant more than the artist is because like, you have to make sure that the artist gives you a proper bill. And there is a proper PAN number associated with it. So that there's a proper record of what you're buying, what you're selling, what you're keeping in the gallery.
So it's always advisable to, when you produce a bill, for example, to mention the title of the work
Yes.
and everything, so that you can actually relate it back in future. Let's say after 20 years. That's
Yes.
very important.
Because we're all human beings. Right now we have maybe a really good relationship with each other and it's not going to be the same in the next maybe 1 month as well. A lot of things can happen that's going to cause the feeling of brotherhood that works in Nepal, like in Daisang Obarego, in a contract center.
Yeah.
So a Dai can be a stranger in one day. So I think as an institution, you need to make sure that you have a contract ready, and you also need to have like proper documentation of all the work that you're buying, what are you keeping, what is the name of the book, how many copies are you keeping, is the artist giving you right to make the prints or not? So
So after the final question for all of you, and then we'll go back to the floor again. So recently, I saw this post on the Facebook. Recently, the Nepal Fine Arts Academy, they were doing the national exhibition, right? And I think 200, 300, 400, I don't know the number. Artists submitted their work to the government entity. And what we found was quite a few artworks were damaged. Right? I don't know whether NAFA did a contract or not. I'm not aware of that. But looking at the Facebook post, it's been damaged badly. Right? So I'm looking at, from the artist perspective as well. I saw your work as well. I think that your work was there. Sonji's work was there. Is it? So your work definitely I saw it there. Right? So from artist perspective, when you think about, you sending your artwork for an exhibition and you feel that sense of threat when an institution is not going to look after your artwork properly. How do you deal with this situation? Because I think there's no contracts, right? It has been taken, like you send it to NAFA and it's being displayed there. How do you feel about this? And it's the same question with you as well, because we keep on doing this, right? And then, हामीमा त्यो किसिमको भइहाल्छ नि भन्ने एउटा प्रवृत्ति पनि छ. If there is a सानो damage, भइहाल्छ नि. And if there is a true damage, nothing will be. Right? How do we tackle this situation? Because we are actually in that situation. Because, being NAFA, I'm not complaining NAFA, but I think we're not totally protected as an institution, also as an artist, right? And that was a clear example that I saw online, because the artwork was broken, it was on the floor, it's artist intellectual property, and there's an institution who is probably not able to look after it. So how do we kind of manage this sort of situation?
In my case, I think it didn't cross my mind until I went there and saw many of the artworks were damaged, especially paintings and those fragile works. I decided to do a bronze and a carpet, which is quite durable.
Both of your works, actually.
So I was okay, but yes, it's true that I think there needs to be some form of contract that is required.
There was none, right? There was none. So with yours, images as well, like if you're giving out for an exhibition, especially talking in the Nepali context, like if you give it to galleries or any institutions, and how do you deal with it if you have kind of come across that sort of situation where maybe just your frame has been broken or a glass has been cracked?
Luckily, nothing has been cracked. But I have encountered some issues with the departments of the during the competitions when we used to submit photos. Later, I think it was the time during I think it was the Deep Step Summit or the Chinese president of the US visited Nepal. If you remember, in the beginning, there was all the images lined up, to hide all the destroyed stuffs that they used, all those photos to cover it up. And when I was just writing, I happened to see one of my images, which was such a big size that I was shocked that how can someone use this high resolution quality without me having no idea about it. So then I took the picture, I posted it on social media and on Twitter, it was a big thing. And later on, after I think the next day, it came my attention that it was Nepal who gave the image to the government, and I know some part of the government, I forgot which part it was, and they have given the full rights to print and use these images. So again, I got a call from I think the Prime Minister's PA. Someone from there saying that Sanjay write us a notice regarding this and all this kind of people books and all that. I said, I'm not going to do that. I mean, the guy, the delegation I have already probably left. It's already been 3-4 days. I suggest that I don't want to pass about it. So since then, I've been very careful on posting images on social media. I normally post on Instagram because it's a very low resolution, and the only thing they can do is just share it in their profile. They cannot use it commercially. So I have no threats. So even competitions I've minimized on whom I can trust, and that's how I'm actually feeling right now.
How do you deal with these sort of situations? How do you protect artists and how the institution can protect themselves? Right? But also this kind of brings another question in my mind. Can we ensure artwork as an artist, but also the institutions when they do exhibitions or they take something loan, right? Are we in a position to do that? But at one point, actually I did an insurance for the gallery, but that was done in a good faith. I was told at that time there's no law as such for intellectual property. How do you deal with this?
So there's nothing called as insurance specifically for the arts in Nepal. Obviously, it's through connections and people that you know, most of the things here. If you know somebody, then it's going to be done. But I think the problem here is not just because there's no insurance, because there's no specific organization representing the artists in Nepal. So do we have a council? Nepal Art Council is just a name of an organization, but it is not a council for artists. So who is your representative? Who's going to bring the legislation in your favor to the government? Who's going to write these laws for you? Are you appointing somebody to speak for you on your behalf as galleries, as artists, as people in the creative industries? Because till the time you don't speak, they're not going to do it. Because till the time there was no protocol in right, there was no law that regulates these type of apps. Till the time there was no Dara, there was no e-commerce bill. So till the time it's not a big deal, the government is not going to look at you. So what do you need to do? You need to make noise on your own. Like for that you need to be aware and legally working, 100% working to protect your rights and going to the organization and saying, see, this is my contract, this is my copyright, this is my art is traveling all the way to Brazil for exhibition, I want it to be insured. Or do you want the gallery to do it? Your gallery needs to do it for you if it's in the contract, and maybe they take a bigger chunk of the cut because insurance is expensive. But you need to ask it yourself.
So basically, these are the artists I'm talking about will be exhibiting in finance. So they can actually be in touch with you if you want.
Yes.
How easy it is to fight with the government? That's another question. But they can actually be in touch with you. Right? Okay, that's good. And I'm sure they can find you in social media, Facebook, and if you have a website.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can. It's Kalalegal.
It's Kalalegal on Instagram. I have a lot of cards. Really long day. I don't bring cards today. I have a lot of cards.
Okay, great. That's great. No, this is fantastic. I love this conversation. And for me as well, I think there's so many things to take away, so many learning opportunity. And I just want to open up the floor for the audience.
There's something that I feel like all the other members when we're building this, having this discussion on intellectual property rights, there was some of our friends who posted they have a collection of 100-year-old photographs. And what happens to these rights? Is there any right that protects them for after? Why does it even this right? Does it really need those rights after a person dies? Should the family members have the rights to keep hold of those artwork, and no other people have the right to make commercial benefit of it? Or if they are the ones for those who care about that, it's a family legacy and they're working on it, should these artwork have the rights to exist so people can make money out of it and support their agenda of their family interest? I need to be
So why do these rights?
Why do rights exist? Why do this? If you have to ask guys, to be more precise.
So I think it's a really simple answer, because normally most of the artists don't get recognition for a very long time, and their art becomes important, expensive, or is capable of generating any monetary benefit maybe when they are 50 years old or maybe after they die. This is the sad reality of the world that we live in. And if you take the right away from the art to generate money after it has value, then what's the point of protecting art? I think that is my opinion. It's not law, it's just what I feel, because it's really difficult to earn a lot of money as an artist. Only very few people are lucky to be able to earn from art every single Nepal. It is difficult.
Because print सर्वले भएकोले आइसिटी सर्वले फोटो प्रिन्ट गर्नुहुन्छ सो म पनि एउटा प्रिन्ट हो सो हामी यो शब्द लिमिटेड एडिसन भन्ने शब्द प्रयोग गर्छौँ हाम्रो आर्टमा सो हामीले कतिवटा प्रिन्ट निकाल्यो भने त्यो लिमिटेड एडिसनमा काउन्ट हुन्छ मैले 5 वटा निकालेँ भने लिमिटेड एडिसन हो 50 वटा निकालेँ भने लिमिटेड एडिसन हो 500 वटा निकालेँ भने लिमिटेड एडिसन हो त्यही मलाई कन्फ्युज छ
मेरो विचारमा यस्तो यतिवटा नै भयो भने मात्र लिमिटेड एडिसनमा गरिन्छ भन्ने चाहिँ छैन त्यस्तो वातावरण छैन तर भनौँ न अब कुनै आर्टिस्ट इन्टरनेसनल आर्टिस्टहरूले कुनै कामहरू बनाउँदा 999 वटा एडिसन पनि बनाउँछ अनि त्यसलाई कसैले पनि नकार्नु पनि सक्दैन तर मेरो विचारमा लिमिटेड एडिसनको मतलब चाहिँ त्यो अङ्कभित्रको चाहिँ हुनु पर्यो त्योभन्दा बाहिर जानु पर्यो एउटा लिमिट भनौँ न त्यो धेरै थोरै चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ भ्यारिएबल छ होला यो यस्तै हुनुपर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ छैन अनि फेरि आर्टको इन्ट्रेस्टिङ चाहिँ के छ भनेदेखि हामीले आफैले भनौँ न कतिवटा ब्यारियर बनाउँछौँ र त्यसलाई ब्रेक गर्दै जानु नै पनि फेरि आर्ट हो अनि त्यो पनि फेरि त्यो एङ्गलबाट पनि हेर्न सकिन्छ
त्यसमा मैले एउटा कुरा थपिहालेँ हामीले 2016 जस्तो लाग्छ Taragaon Italian फोटोग्राफरको फोटो एक्जिबिसन भनेको 2016 अब सेम टाइम जस्तो लाग्छ अनि उसको कलेक्सनबाट हामीले एउटा फोटो अक्वायर गरेको थियौँ अनि त्यो फोटो अक्वायर गर्दाखेरि मलाई एउटा अथेन्टिसिटीको सर्टिफिकेट दिएको थियो र त्यसमा एउटा होलोग्राफिक स्टिकर पनि टाँसेको छ होइन र त्यसमा क्लियरली के लेखेको छ भनेदेखि त्यो प्रिन्ट चाहिँ इट वाज ओन्ली 10 copies produced right so it is not actually producing any other prints after so त्यस किसिमको त्यस किसिमबाट पनि लिमिटेड एडिसन्सहरू चाहिँ गरिरहेको
तपाईँको भनेको बेलामा चाहिँ अब मेरो चाहिँ कस्तो भयो अब म मिनिस्ट्री पनि गरेको भएर कमर्सियली मैले चाहिँ त्यो प्रिन्ट गरेर त्यसले गर्दैन तर कसैले त्यसरी आयो भने चाहिँ मैले चाहिँ त्यसरी चाहिँ हो कपिज भन्ने हुँदैन प्रायः मेरो भने एउटै कपी हुन्छ अब कति ड्युरेसन त्यस्तो कति ड्युरेसनसम्म चाहिँ त्यसको अब तपाईँले युज गर्न पाउने भन्ने चाहिँ मेरो चाहिँ त्यसरी हुन्छ
So suppose I have छोटा prints मसँग अनि मैले रिसेन्टली त्यसमध्ये 20वटा बेच्यो सर्टेन प्राइसमा अनि बाँकी 30वटा मैले 10 वर्षपछि बेचेँ अनि मैले बेचेको मैले 20,000मा बेच्छु तर बाँकी 30वटा बेच्दा 10 वर्षपछि मैले त्यसलाई
फेरि प्राइसिङ पनि यही हो प्राइसिङ तपाईँले जति पनि गर्न पाउनुहुन्छ त्यहाँ कुनै पनि बााउन्ड्री हुँदैन तर तपाईँको त्यो प्राइसलाई मान्छेले एक्नोलेज गरेर तपाईँको कामलाई लिन्छ कि लिँदैन कुरा प्रिन्टमा चाहिँ प्रिन्ट अथवा लिमिटेड एडिसनमा हामीले धेरै के पनि प्र्याक्टिस देख्छौँ भनेदेखि अगाडिको भनौँ तपाईँकोमा 50वटा छ भन्नुभयो कि अहिले 10 वर्षपछि नगरेर तपाईँको काम सबैले मन पराउनु भयो र 30वटा तुरुन्तै बिग्रियो रहेछ अब त्यो पछिको 20वटालाई प्राइस डबल ट्रिपल गरेर पनि बेच्ने चलन छ त्यो भएर त्यो त्यसमा यो हुन्छ यो हुँदैन भन्ने चाहिँ छैन त्यो तपाईँले अब तपाईँको मार्केट कस्तो छ मार्केटले कस्तो एक्सेप्ट गर्न सक्छ त्यो मात्र
I have a question to Priyanjana, first of all, so in the age of AI, how is the IP law changing? Because there's so many artists, writers, and like with Latte, I've been putting a clause, not a clause, I can tell the writers about that we are not AI tolerant. But how do you sort of monitor that? And is there something, is there a new law?
So I think it's a very big and new topic worldwide. Nepal has not even bothered in art and AI as of now. Internationally, there are a lot of cases going on about if AI can be an author of a copyright or AI can be an author of a patent. And there are, I think, 3 big cases going on in the US. There was this artist who made a whole illustration, a book from AI, and he did not disclose that it was AI who made it. He said he was the author, and then they found out that it was AI somehow. But right now, I have no idea how to find out because I'm a lawyer, I'm not a tech savvy lawyer.
I think after this we'll take one more question and then we'll close.
Let's say our NGOs or our foundations or something. Specifically, I have that specifically our foundation or NGOs also. So we say community to learn about that also. And they say, try to say art to save your island, right?
The department say they have foundation, they have galleries and seminars. Right? And you student was not necessarily so you so process a lot of artists confused about the private galleries here was all business. The foundations, NGOs, in Nepal, two job officers, अलिकति सबैजना कष्ट भन्छु सो हामीले कुनै बेलामा चाहिँ कुनै एक्जिबिसन फाउन्डेसन गरिरहेको छ हामीले चाहिँ पार्टिसिपेट हुने सेल्समा राख्ने राख्छौँ भोलि एक्सन्सहरूमा चाहिँ हामी पब्लिकमा त्यसमा चाहिँ
So not for profit अनि फाउन्डेसन भन्ने बित्तिकै आर्ट सेल गर्न पाउँदैन भन्ने चाहिँ हुँदैन उनीहरू चाहिँ प्रफिट जेनेरेट गरेर त्यो प्रफिट लिन चाहिँ दिने हुँदैन जस्तै अब नट फर प्रफिटले पनि स्यालेरी दिने पऱ्यो उनीहरूको आफ्नो एक्सपेन्स हुन्छ तर त्यो प्रफिट चाहिँ उनीहरूले ब्याक टु द इस्यु जुन कामको लागि उनीहरूलाई त्यो प्रफिट चाहिँ त्यसमा लगानी गर्नुपर्छ भनेर हुन्छ होइन तर जेनरली चाहिँ कुनै पनि फाउन्डेसन छ भने त्यो फाउन्डेसनको ग्यालेरी पनि हुन्छ अनि मेबी फाउन्डेसनले चाहिँ ग्यालेरीलाई एउटा सर्टन प्राइसमा पे सेल गर्छ अनि ग्यालेरीले चाहिँ बाहिर बेच्न सक्छ आई डोन्ट नो द इन्टरनल कसरी अब ग्यालेरीलाई कसरी दर्ता गरेको छ त भनेर हेर्नु पऱ्यो
profit not distributing is very जस्तै संस्थाहरूले चाहिँ के गर्न सक्छ भनेदेखि प्रियञ्जनाजीले भनेको जस्तै सेल गर्न सक्छ होइन जस्तै सेल गरेपछि त्यसको प्रफिट चाहिँ त्यसको लिन पाइँदैन त्यो प्रफिट चाहिँ we have to put it back for the same cost होइन तपाईँले भन्नुभएको पोइन्ट त्यही हो किनभने एज अ फाउन्डेसन एज वेल we also publish तर त्यो पब्लिकेसन गरेर हामी के गर्छौँ भने it will be published another त्यसबाट जुन इन्कम आउँछ त्यसलाई हामी फेरि अर्को पब्लिकेसनमा इन्भेस्ट गर्छौँ र मोस्ट अफ द फाउन्डेसन्सहरू जसको कमर्सियल अप्रोचहरू देखिन्छ आई थिङ्क मोस्ट अफ द वर्किङ इन द्याट एक्सर्साइज अरू कसैको केही क्वेसन छ जुन लास्ट वन
So, really, this is not a issue. I have also that is this almost so we are answering. So we are something commercial registered one market from just like social aspect of the family structure is across the and commercial we can commercial we can this is really damaging for system. We can do after one week for activity can our middle class something like you Rama complex system, different complex system possible. So, the agriculture to be nothing other producer but an apple sale mobile. Still also
हामीले emotionally धेरै कुराहरू पनि practically how it's possible. कन्ट्याक्टमा म तिमीलाई यति वर्षको यो टाइम दिन्छु, यति वर्ष यो युज गर्न पाउँछौ, यो युज गर्न पाउँदैन, हामीले फिजिकल माटो गरेको हो, अरू केही राइट्स दिनु हुँदैन। मैले भनेको जति पैसा तिमीले वर्ष यति भन्ने त्यो हिम्मत कति आर्टिस्टमा आउँछ प्र्याक्टिकल इमोसनली धेरै मान्छे जुन मार्केट आएको त्यो मैले त्यो छैन भन्ने बुझ्छु त्यस वर्ष मैले सोचलाई मलाई प्रोग्राम राखेर एउटा सानो लागेर यो चुज सो आई होप you have that journey. So this demand to combat practical principles are.
अहिलेसम्म मलाई चाहिँ के लागिरहेको छ सो 2018 चाहिँ म यहाँ बढी बस्न थालेँ अनि मैले के देखेँ भने हाम्रो यहाँ चाहिँ एकदमै लिमिटेड आर्ट सिन छ मेरो इन टर्म्स अफ लाइक मार्केट लिमिटेड छ त्यो चाहिँ अहिले नै हाम्रो कम्युनिटीलाई अवेर गराउनु आर्ट भनेको कति इम्पोर्टेन्ट हामी आर्टिस्ट भेला हुने ठाउँमा धेरै मान्छे देख्छौँ सबै आर्टिस्ट नै हुन्छ सबै कोही न कोही हिसाबमा आर्टसँग इन्भल्भ भएको हुन्छ तर बाहिरको जुन चाहिँ हाम्रो लेट्स से लेमन भनौँ कन्भेन्सनल मान्छेलाई अझै पनि हामीले आर्ट भनेको एउटा इम्पोर्टेन्ट चिज हो भनेर जनाउन अझै नै बाँकी छ त्यो भर्खरै एकदमै इट्स अ भेरी प्रिलिमिनेरी लेभलमै छौँ अहिले त्यस्तो हुँदै मलाई चाहिँ के लागेको थियो भने सायद हाम्रो त्यो ट्रान्ज्याक्सनले जुन चाहिँ भनौँ मैले कतिवटा अलिक इमोसनली भएर कतिवटा ट्रान्ज्याक्सन गरिरहेको छु त्यसमाथि अब त्यो मलाई चाहिँ के लाग्यो भनेदेखि यो फेज चाहिँ उहाँहरूलाई इन्करेज गर्ने र के भन्छ एक्साइटेड बनाउने फेज जस्तो लागिरहेछ अहिले हामी त्यो नै फाइनल जुन चाहिँ एउटा लेभल छ जहाँ चाहिँ एकदमै I'm talking about myself, मेरो एङ्गलबाट हुनसक्छ यो एकदमै खास मलाई पनि लाग्छ यो ल चाहिँ छ भने आर्टिस्ट आफैलाई प्रोटेक्सन तर कतिवटा ठाउँमा चाहिँ मैले इमोसनली नै त्यो कम्प्रोमाइज गरिरहेको हुनुपर्छ उहाँहरूलाई अब यो मैले एउटा एजुकेसनको रूपमै लिइरहेको छु हाउ टु एजुकेट आवर कम्युनिटी अबाउट द भ्याल्यू अफ आर्ट त्यो एङ्गलबाट हेर्दाखेरि अब त्यतिको धेरै चिज फेरि बम्बार्ड गर्दाखेरि उहाँहरू झन् भागेर तर्सिने हो कि भन्ने खालको पनि एउटा मेरोमा डर आइरहेको छ क्या त्यो डर भन्दा पनि डाउट एउटा आइरहेको छ त्यसरी पनि त्यो इमोसनल लेभलमै काम गरिरहेको छ अब बाहिरको कुरा गर्दाखेरि त एभ्री लिटल थिङ इज कन्ट्र्याक्ट बेस्ड त्यो सबै कन्ट्र्याक्टमा हुन्छ ट्रान्ज्याक्सन कन्ट्र्याक्टमा भइरहेको छ अब यहाँ त कतिवटा आर्ट उता लान्छ अनि पैसा पनि अब भिजिबल पनि देख्दैन पार्टर भइरहेको छ त्यो हुनाले अब अहिले तर जुन चाहिँ उहाँले भन्नुभयो त्यो खास आर्टिस्टकै लागि एउटा प्रोटेक्सन हो हुँदैन भन्न पनि सकिँदैन किनभनेदेखि बिट्विन 2018 एन्ड नाउ भनौँ न आर्ट कलेजमा स्टुडेन्ट बढिरहेछ ग्यालेरी बढिरहेछ आर्ट हेर्न जाने मान्छे बढिरहेछ सो इट्स ग्रेजुअली प्रोग्रेसिङ डेफिनेटली एन्ड देयर इज अ लट अफ रुम फर अ लट अफ प्रोग्रेस अनि यो कुरा अहिले नै यो कन्भर्सेसन हुनु पनि इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ जस्तो पनि लाग्छ
Any final thoughts?
म चाहिँ एउटा मात्रै कुरा भन्नु जस्तै आर्ट हजुरले भनेको कुरा एकदम ठिक हो किनभने नेपालमा चाहिँ क्रिएटिभ इन्डस्ट्री भनेको चाहिँ प्यासन एक्सप्लोइटेसन भनेर हुन्छ कि सो पैसै नतिर्ने बल्ल बल्ल पैसा कमाइरहेको छ बल्ल बल्ल चाहिँ मान्छे आइरहेको छ गरिदिउँ न त यो जाला नि त ठिक छ नि त एक्सपोजर पाउँछु फ्रीमा गरिदिन्छु न्युरोले त भइहाल्छ कि म ओपनिङमा फ्रीमा गीत गाइदिन्छु किनभने यत्रो ठुलो आर्टिस्टसँग मैले गाउनु पाइरहेको छु यसरी नै चलिरहेको छ कि यहाँ आर्ट अनि इफ हजुरले भने जस्तै मैले साथ पाइनँ म फुलबाट दिन्छु नि त बरु फुलबाट नबेच्ने नि त भन्छु कि म सबै आर्टिस्टहरूले स्ट्यान्डर्ड हो यो हाम्रो घरको तिमी आर्ट न गाह्रो छ गर्न अभियसली मलाई यहाँ बसेर भन्ने एकदम सजिलो छ किनभने मैले आर्ट बेचेर पैसा कमाउने होइन तर त्यो आई थिङ्क एउटा मुभमेन्ट चाहिँ आर्ट कम्युनिटीले ल्याउनै पर्छ किनभने आर्टको इम्पोर्टेन्स हामी एज आर्टिस्टले नै गरेनौँ भने ठिकै छ नि त म दिइदिन्छु भने त भोलि जो एउटा आर्टिस्टले चाहिँ म चाहिँ प्रोटेक्ट गर्छु भनेर बसेको छ उसको लागि चाहिँ ठाउँमै भएन नि त। एउटा म्युजिसियन मैले चिनेकोले चाहिँ रेडियोसँग गएर मलाई रोयल्टी देऊ न त मेरो गीतको भन्दाखेरि त्यो रेडियोले चाहिँ तिमीले गीतको रोयल्टी माग्छ भने म अर्को आर्टिस्टसँग लिन्छु जसले रोयल्टी माग्दैन भन्छ कि। अनि त्यो अर्को आर्टिस्ट छ जसले रोयल्टी नदिकन गर्छ किनभने उसको गीत रेडियोमा बज्छ नि त भनेर। सो त्यो एक्सप्लोइटेसन चाहिँ यति धेरै छ मार्केटमा, त्यो एक्सप्लोइटेसन हामी कसरी स्टप गर्छौँ त भन्ने क्वेसन हो कि हामी एक्सप्लोइटेसनबाट एक्सप्लोइट भइरहने त क्रिएटिभ इन्डस्ट्रीमा चाहिँ हामी एक्सप्लोइटै हुन आएको हो, हामी एक्सप्लोइट हुने भनेर बस्ने यति भन्दैन।
धेरै भाषामा बसबाट सुरु गरेको अहिलेसम्मको ट्रान्जेक्सनमा सुरु त्यस्तै गरेर एक्सपोजर नै ठुलो लाग्थ्यो म इन्ट्रेस्ट भइरहेको एक्सपोजरै हेर्ने कुरा होइन हुँदै गर्छ भनेर जस्तो बिस्तारै हुँदै गएपछि अब रिस्पोन्सिबिलिटिज बढ्दै गएपछि काम हुँदै गएपछि सबै आफूले हेर्नु थालेपछि चाहिँ एकदमै गाह्रो हुन्छ क्या। अनि तर आफूले आफूलाई कसरी डेभलप गर्ने चाहिँ म भन्छु क्या एउटा टाइम अहिलेको जमाना के रहेछ भने मार्केटिङ नै हो कि निश्चय रहेछ कि आफूले आफ्नो बिजनेस अर्गनाइज यो अफिस हुन्छ सो त्यो कसरी गर्ने भन्ने कुरा त्यसमा चाहिँ पनि आफ्नो मार्केटमा जस्तै जमाना आइसक्यो। अनि अहिले कस्तो छ भने अब रिफ्ट पनि आइरहेको छ कि स्पेसली अब ड्युटी अब आउने वार होइन वारहरू सो अल एड्स डेभलपमेन्ट एड्सहरू चाहिँ it's being diverted. So पहिला जस्तो हामीले जति प्रोजेक्टहरू आउँथ्यो डेभलपमेन्ट सेक्टरमा एनजिओज सबै रोकिरहेको छ। अनि त्यो रोकियो के भयो अब धेरै फाइनेन्सियली पनि एउटा स्टक भयो क्या। किनकि एउटा प्रोजेक्ट आइरहेको मान्छेहरू पनि नआउँदाखेरि के भयो मार्केट पनि एक्सप्लोर हुन थाल्यो कि मान्छेले एकदम सस्तोमा गर्ने होइन। अब त्यो चिप रेट्स के हुन्छ नि एकदमै चिप रेट्स अब के हुन्छ जस्तो युबाट मैले आउँछ एउटा युमा पनि एउटा अप्लाई गरेको कन्सल्टेसनलाई अनि मेरो मार्निङ डे फिज भनेर विषय आयो मलाई एकजना थुप्रो मान्छे सन्देशी तपाईँको कहाँ जस्तो राखेको चाहिँ मान्छेले 1 वर्षको या 50,000 लाग्ने यो गरिदिइसक्यो तर म क्या दिनको 300 करोड 400 करोड भनेर म पनि दिन्छु कि है कसरी हुन्छ अरू बनाउने ट्राई गर्ने अप्लाई गर्ने होइन। हस्पिटल चाहिँ गरिराख्नुपर्छ क्या जति आफूले हस्पिटल त्यति नै त्यसको फल हुन्छ दुःख पनि हुन्छ नहुने चाहिँ त्यति छ।
एकदम गजबको कुरा भयो तपाईँले सबैजनालाई एकदम धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। सबभन्दा रमाइलो लागेको कुरा चाहिँ मलाई आर्टिस्ट र फोटोग्राफर दुईजनाको पर्सपेक्टिभलाई एक किसिमले लिगल वेबाट चाहिँ तपाईँले राखिदिनु भयो। त्यो चाहिँ हामीले जहिले पनि एक किसिमले बुझ्न नसकेको अथवा बुझ्न नचाहेको अथवा इग्नोर गरेको जस्तो लाग्थ्यो मलाई। तर यो कुराकानीबाट चाहिँ के मैले मेरो टेकअवे चाहिँ के भयो कि सानो से सानो कामको लागि पनि हामीले तपाईँले भनेपछि यो 3 C'लाई चाहिँ नि कपिराइट्स कन्ट्र्याक्ट्स र कम्प्लायन्सेस तिनवटा कुरा गर्नु होइन। आई थिङ्क त्यो चाहिँ एकदमै महत्त्वपूर्ण देखिनु त्यो हामी एज एन इन्डिभिजुअल पनि सोच्नुपर्ने कुरा रहेछ एज एन इन्स्टिट्युसन पनि त्यो सोच्नुपर्ने कुरा रहेछ होइन। त्यही भएर यो कुराकानीले आई थिङ्क हामी सबैलाई मद्दत नै गर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ किनभने तपाईँले अब स्पेसली अब इन्डस्ट्रीमा पनि पढाउनुहुन्छ होइन स्टुडेन्ट्सहरू हुनुहुन्छ र स्पेसली आर्ट स्टुडेन्ट्सहरूमै भयो र यसले चाहिँ नि मेरो विचारमा यङ्गर जेनेरेसनको आर्टिस्टहरूलाई अझ बढी अवेर बनाउनु चाहिँ नि अझै एकदमै जरुरी छ जस्तो लाग्छ। किनभने अहिले मैले काठमाडौँमा देखिरहेको के हो कि हामी प्र्याक्टिसिङ आर्टिस्ट र यङ्गर जेनेरेसनको आर्टिस्टहरू एकदम अलिकति अवेर हुन थालिसकेको छ। तर हामीले अझै सिनियर आर्टिस्टहरूलाई हेऱ्यौँ भने त्यो फेरि एकदमै दुर्दशा नै छ कि त्यो कुरा फेरि कम्प्लिटली अर्को टपिक हुनसक्छ होइन। त्यही भएर यो कुराकानीले चाहिँ मेरो विचारमा हामीलाई कहीँ पुर्याउँछ होला र यसले हामी सबैलाई चाहिँ मद्दत गर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ। थ्याङ्क यू भेरी मच तपाईँले आइदिनु भयो कुरा सुनिदिनु भयो।